Hello, hello. Am I live? Is this working? Impromptu live inside of the Flow Protocols group because I realized there's actually no training about this inside of this group. I've done some in other groups and I'm feeling the energy for it to share this information to help you guys, those of you who are looking to create big value exchanges. That's basically my definition for a business. A value exchange is when we're creating value in exchange for value, which in our society is usually a denomination of money. So this training is happening inside of the Flow Protocols group. If you're watching it somewhere else, make sure that you join this group because we got lots of cool stuff happening in there. Awesome. Okay, so So today I want to share with you guys a skill that trumps basically every marketing, sales, funnel, offer strategy there is. So many times I see people stumbling around, throwing strategy after strategy at the wall. Do I do a low ticket funnel that goes to a call, or do I price it at this, or do I price it here, or should I create this product, or should my content focus on these pillars or do this? So many entrepreneurs are focused on the actual or the strategies. And I was guilty of this as well for a really long time. But they're getting nowhere. It's like they're buying the lead magnets, they're trying one approach, that's not working, and then finding themselves right back at square one. And really, the big reason for this is what I want to share with you guys today. There is a skill that trumps all strategy. I have been in business for over 13 years now. I've built multiple multi-million dollar coaching, service-based businesses. I've also helped my partner build a local service-based business. He's now at over 10K per month. I've helped all kinds of different businesses, e-commerce businesses scale. And I am here to tell you that any and all strategy can work just as much as it can fail. Low ticket funnels, done. You'll find lots of examples of people succeeding and thriving doing that. Add to a sales call. Sure, it works. Lots of people out there are making that work. Membership funnels. Yes, that works. Growing through viral content or Reddit. Yes, that works. YouTube monetization. Yes, there's people doing this. Anything can work and anything can fail. You will find examples of people succeeding applying whatever strategy your little mind dreams up or comes up with. It's been validated. It can work. The thing is, the strategies in themselves, that's not the winning ingredient, so to speak. So this is what I want to talk to you guys about today, especially those of you who are, whether you call yourself an entrepreneur, business owner, founder, semantics, but you are essentially creating a value exchange. You are creating a channel to receive money by creating value for others. That's what I call a business, basically. So before I share what this skill is and how to actually tap into it and apply it properly so that all strategies can work in your business, let me share with you a little bit about how I came to discover this. I'm going to see if I can pull up the comments, by the way. Let me just pull this up here quickly so that if you have questions, feel free to ask. Am I even live? Let me double check this. Okay, that's good. I'm live. Good. So some of you guys you can ask questions. I'll be able to see it now as well. So some of you guys have probably heard this story before. Bear with me because it is an important part of this conversation. But many of you guys know me from my Academy FATC days. This was an online coaching program that I ran for agency owners. FATC was a Facebook ads training. Both of those grew into multi-million-dollar products. And in 2016, really at the height of the academy, I was enrolling, I don't know, easily 20, 30 students per month into this $10,000 offer. And the academy was basically a plug and play system where I provided a template of a funnel that I had used to grow my own agency. This was the performance-based funnel. Most of you guys have come across this. That was me. I started that. And I was running a digital marketing agency. I was really struggling to grow it. And one night I was watching an ad on TV, and it was a lawyer saying, "Oh, you don't pay us until we get you results." And I remember thinking, holy crap, like that's a really good hook. I wonder if that would work for agencies. So I set up a funnel, set up an ad, and then the next thing I knew, I was booked out with calls, and then lo and behold, my agency just blew up. It grew really, really quickly. I went from being essentially a freelancer to having a team of 7 and then 10 staff, went from 5K months to 80K within 30 days, and then 100K the next month. It grew really, really quickly. And so I started to get I was in these Facebook groups with other agency owners and marketers, and they started to notice how quickly I was growing. They started to ask me, "How are you doing this?" I started to tell them. I found myself repeating myself. At the time, I was trying to teach Facebook ads as a course under a brand called Social Up Lab. That is what my Cat Howell page is called. If you look at the URL slug, that was what I initially called my brand. And then I realized I had this program I could sell. I could teach agency owners this template because when I would tell people about it and they would apply it, it would work for them. So I started to enroll people, and most of them were existing agency owners. Some of them were freelancers trying to build an agency. And it was basically this plug and play system. It was like, here's the funnel template. Just put this in your business, whatever, using ClickFunnels or whatever. Copy and paste. This is the direct response. These are the email sequences on the back. This is exactly how you should set up your ads. And then we had really robust support around that whole system. And while it did work for the majority of people, obviously most people succeeded with it, otherwise that program would have collapsed on itself. While it did work for most people, maybe not initially, but people were getting traction, and some of them just hit the ground running and grew really, really quickly. What I started to notice was that for some people, it was actually, they were getting nowhere. It was actually, if anything, it was making them more insecure, or it was like the results were getting worse in their business. It wasn't doing anything to them. And that's when I started to kind of go, okay, wait, hold on. What is happening here? Because this is a plug and play system. Like, you copy and paste this. Why is this working for some people and it's not working for other people? Simultaneous to this at this time, in my agency, I'm embarrassed to admit, but there was a couple instances in 8Loop, my agency, where we copied funnels that we saw working really well in the market, almost verbatim. And sometimes this was for clients. Like, clients would tell us, like, copy this. This is what our competitors are doing. Just copy word for word. And we would try this sometimes, and then it just wouldn't work. Like, same offer, same copy, same ads, same freaking funnel, and it wouldn't work. So again, this was making me sort of question and go, okay, there's something else at play here. Because if it was just strategy, if it was just about the offer, if it was just about the pricing, if it was just about the copy, then this should work. Because it's obviously working here, and it's working there, and it's working where. Why is it not working here? There's something else going on. And I was into a mindset and stuff at the time, because my first business mentor had sort of opened me up to this world, and I was doing, Dr. Joe Dispenza and this kind of stuff. But And I did start to go, okay, this is there's a mindset piece here, and we had a mindset coach in the academy. We were really trying to buffer this in because I really started to realize there was another element at play that was far more important than the actual direct response, that was far more important than the actual offer or the pricing or the copy or any of that stuff. Anyways, fast forward to 2018, and I started to experience a pretty intense depression, which I kept hidden until I had a manic depressive episode in 2020 when I confessed it all publicly. Many of you were part of that journey. And in 2018, this was really on the height of success. I was taking home about 200K in salary, take home salary. That was just my salary. I was swiping cards, never having to look at amounts. I was living the epitome of financial success in my business, essentially. But this depression started to show up. And when I look back at what were the sort of factors that instigated this emotional state, there were several things. And honestly, I don't think it matters too much which came first or what. I think they were all sort of reflections and a culmination of each other. But for starters, I started to experience a sense of betrayal because I had built this very successful program, and then I would have either contractors that I was hiring or students that were coming into my world basically going off and teaching my method to other people. And instead of feeling inspired by this and being like, wow, I've inspired somebody to like go and create their own value exchange and impact the lives of other people, and instead of having a sense of confidence that, you know, my voice is unique and I'm going to resonate with certain people that are not going to resonate with other people and vice versa, I felt betrayed by this. And then there was another factor, which was I was single at the time, and I had just come out of a divorce. I'd been married. Was with my ex-husband for 12 years. So I was single. I couldn't get fucking laid, guys. Like, this is a story for another time, but and it was so frustrating because everyone was telling me, you're a woman, women can just get laid. I could not. Like, trust me, I tried going into bars. I even tried to hire a male escort that doesn't fucking exist here for women only. So I was really sexually frustrated, but more so I was very lonely. I was really, really lonely. And this loneliness, I think, exacerbated a sense of insecurity. And I had access to so much money that this insecurity manifested itself as me spending a lot of that on plastic surgery procedures. I got addicted to plastic surgery. And in 2018, I had a botched surgery that went wrong. And that obviously that took a hammer to my sense of confidence even more. And then to top it all off, I was getting tired of the conversation of Facebook ads. I was getting tired of, if you're teaching Facebook ads, you really need to, not that you need to, but it's a good thing to be across the platform, and the platform changes really fast. It's almost a daily thing. You have to keep your toe on it because it does change a lot. They make a lot of updates to it. And I just didn't have the energy anymore. I had been doing this for, at that time, almost, a while. And I had just grown tired of it. But because I had built such a successful business around this, I'd built a big audience. I was well known in my industry. My brain wouldn't let me just, okay, well, let's talk about something else. I wanted to talk about mindset, but I felt like too much of an imposter. So I felt lonely. I was insecure. I felt betrayed. And I was getting bored and feeling trapped by my business. Can you spot the common variable? I don't think anyone's on this live with me now, so I'm talking to myself. But if you are watching the replay, let me know. What is the common variable? What is the common variable? The way I was feeling, right? The way I was feeling, betrayed, insecure, trapped, lonely. And what happened at that stage in my business, even though technically speaking, the academy should have gotten bigger and bigger and bigger because we were getting more and more testimonials. And, the more testimonials you have behind you, the easier it is to compound those results and get the momentum going. What actually started happening was that from 2018 to 2020, things started to go rapidly downhill in terms of revenues. The strategies weren't changing. I was throwing a lot of money at ads. I was throwing a lot of money at building a team and bringing new resources in and hiring consultants to look at things and why isn't the blah, blah, blah. Like, the product was the same, the offer was the same, the director, like nothing inherently changed. If anything, I was investing way more resources into trying to fix things, into getting second opinions, into, investing even more in ads, and yet things were going downhill. So even though I was applying myself strategically, it was going the opposite way because of the way that I was feeling. And this is probably the moment in my life where I started to truly understand the principle that our reality is a mirror of us. It is a reflection of us, which, if you had told me this 10, 15 years ago, I would have rolled my eyes at you and told you to fuck off, you hippie, go smoke a joint. That's what I would have said. I actually have no problems with hippies, by the way. But I would, back then, I would have been like, oh my God, what mumbo jumbo? Which planet did you come off of? Come on, give me a break. But now I realize it's actually common sense. There's nothing woo-woo about the fact, or the idea, I should say, that reality, that the circumstances in your business, that where you find yourself, that the where your business is at now is a function and a result, is a mirror of you. Because if you think about it, the circumstances you find yourself in, the number of clients you have, the amount of money you have in your bank account, the opportunities that are opening up to you, is a result of actions and behaviors that you've taken, right? You have a business because at some stage you decided to start a business. You took the action, the behavior. Maybe you quit your job. Maybe someone fired you, but there was still an action that you took to go, hey, I'm registering this thing, or I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to create this offer. There was an action behind that. And those actions and behaviors, in turn, are the result of thoughts and perspectives that you've held. So there was an action to start a business because there was a thought and perspective that this was a desirable thing. There was a moment of willpower and desire of like, I want this over applying for another 9-to-5 or whatever, right? So the behaviors and actions were a reflection of thoughts and perspectives that you held. And so the circumstances that we find ourselves in are the residual of past thoughts and past beliefs that we have held. It is a mirror of us. And this is what was happening to me in my business during that time in 2018 to 2020. I had never had a problem hiring before that in my business. I had always had the most non-strategic technical approach to hiring. I hired off vibes, basically. I grew 8Loop, my agency. I grew the academy team by just hiring on vibes. Like I would know basically the moment someone sent in the CV or I got to speak to them. And some of the hires I had were kind of interesting, but I never had any real issues with any of the hires in my business across either one of those companies. But then in 2018, as I started to feel betrayed, as I started to feel insecure, as I started to feel lonely and all these things, what actually started to happen was these, very interesting people I hired in the business that some of those hires really backfired on me. One of them actually took me to court. So that was a first for me, and that really rocked the confidence. And so it was like the more betrayed I felt, and this is also what I was noticing, is the more betrayed I felt, the more it was happening. The more people would go off and start similar courses, then the more I would feel betrayed. And then the more I would shrink. And then the more I would constrict and be like, no, I don't want to share this stuff. People are just stealing from me. People are just taking this IP and doing whatever they want to do with it. And my business began to reflect this. My business constricted energetically as well as revenue wise in all ways, right? It started to actually reflect this totally. So this was being reflected. The close rates, we started to have a lot of sales team fatigue. And again, I was just, I was constantly trying to fix it, hiring new people. Do we do this and this? But it was just a mirror of me. It was just a reflection of me. So, by the way, it's worth noting that in that time, I was meditating, I was doing journaling, I was doing affirmations. As I mentioned, I was by that stage in my business, I was no novice, I guess is the word. I was no novice to mindset stuff. I had been introduced to Joe Dispenza, Esther Hicks, all of the greats, I guess. And I was doing journaling, and I was doing affirmations, and I was standing in front of the mirror, and I was trying to manifest, and I was meditating, and I was investing in Reiki and energy healing and all of these things. So that's worth noting because despite all of that, I was not actually addressing the thing that needed to be addressed. It was not doing anything, basically. Things got worse and worse until I had this manic depressive episode in 2020. So that's when I walked away. And because I had no choice, really. It was a matter of life and death. And most of you guys know this story, so I'm not going to go. I already went into it deep enough. But there was a point I needed to lay the groundwork because this was how I came to discover this skill that changes everything. And I wanted you to really understand what I'm meaning by any and all strategies can work or fail. And it really has nothing to do with the strategy or the price point or the offer that you're putting out there. Yes, these things matter to some extent. They matter to the extent that they feel good to you, that they're aligned to you, that they are a match to your own energy reserves and what you desire for yourself. But beyond that, there is something that is far more important, and this is how I came to experience this. So in 2020, when I walked away from everything, that was when I discovered the world of alchemy and magic. And it was here that I came across the principles of duality and mirroring, and more specifically, how this duality in emotions. So I came across the principle of duality in the ancient Hermetic text, the Kybalion, where they talk about just as there is light, there is dark, just as there is cold, there is hot, just as there is long, there is short. There is an observable law of our reality where there is an equal and polar opposite to every single thing on this planet, and that emotions also have mirrors of each other. And this sort of cracked everything open for me from there on out. It was like a really big thing, because that was when I started to realize, I'm depressed. What is the polar opposite of this? And what I realized was that depression is really a loss of affinity to life. It's a it's an apathy towards life. It's an ungratefulness towards life. And so therefore the polar opposite of that is gratitude to life, affinity to life, appreciation for life. And so I started to teach myself, or to find focus points that fostered affinity, a sense of gratitude towards life. And I was able to take myself out of this depression that basically had brought me right back to a ground zero financially, had just wiped me out mentally, energetically, and that had really taken over my life for several years by that time. I had also known depression before in my life, so it's something I've experienced since the age of 8, and it was always this kind of demon that I thought was something wrong with me. Like there's something wrong with my brain, or I need to, I needed to fix this basically. And it was only when I came across these principles of duality through the world of alchemy, and I realized actually depression was a communication. It was simply trying to teach me how to find affinity to life, and that I started to actively pursue that I was able to actually shift through that depression within, I think it was a month or two. It might have been 2 months. And really find an amazing sense of joy for life again. And then I met my partner right away, and then I launched the Flow protocols, and I ended up making $80,000 within a couple months of doing that. It was just like, I found my hand. It was like I found Cat. So basically, let's dive into this mirroring of these emotions a little bit more, and why emotions? Why are we talking about emotions? Well, it is estimated that we have about over 60,000 thoughts per day, and most of those are subconscious. That's a lot of thoughts. Your thoughts are very slippery, mercurial, tricky things for you to place your finger on, because you have so many of them. So much of it is just so fucking random, it's irrelevant. And then a lot of it is subconscious. It's not even in your conscious awareness that you're thinking these things. Have you ever had an experience where you're having a good day and you're walking around, and then somebody says something to you, maybe in passing, or maybe they cut you off, and then you just feel really weird for the rest of the day, but you don't know why? You don't know why. You're not like consciously attaching it to that event because it was so meaningless, but it's just kind of like dampen the rest of your day, right? So a lot of the thoughts that we have are running subconsciously. They're not even in our conscious awareness. And so when people say mindfulness and mindset and think positive thoughts, and all you got to do is, be happy, be optimistic, I agree. That is definitely one way to go about it. However, it tends to be the hard way to approach things, because there's so many fucking thoughts we have every day, and most of them we're not even aware of. And so this is where emotions come in, because while we have so many thoughts per day, emotions communicate to us prominent thoughts that we are practicing, that we are holding, that we are focusing upon. And they are very easy for us to discern because we feel them. We don't have to go, what am I thinking right now at every moment of every second of every minute of the day? We can discern very quickly whether we feel good or we feel bad. We can discern very quickly whether something is energizing us or depleting us. And so there's a lot of different emotions. There's a whole spectrum of them. And there's, millions of infinite reasons why we experience these states that we experience. But the magic of emotions is that they're very, very, very easy for us to identify whether we are, whether we feel good or we feel bad. And this is what I like to call red and green light emotions. So red light emotions, some of you guys have already heard this again, but let me recap this because this is very important. So red light emotions are emotional states that deplete us of energy. They stress the parasympathetic nervous system out. So many of them, right? Depression, grief, heartbreak, confusion, overwhelm, loneliness, boredom, frustration, anger, right, are all examples of red light states. How do you know? Because, lots of reasons why we might experience those states, but super easy to discern. They don't feel good. It doesn't feel good when you're angry. It doesn't feel good when you're anxious. It doesn't feel good when you're in fear. It doesn't feel good when your heart's been broken or you feel insecure, right? You can identify that immediately in your body. That does not feel good. And green light states is the polar opposite, is the dual of that. Green light states are emotional states that energize you. They feel good in the body. They strengthen the parasympathetic nervous system. Again, lots and lots of green light states. Happiness, joy, play, gratitude, abundance, overflow, clarity, enthusiasm, on and on it goes. Infinite millions of reasons why we would experience these states, but super easy to discern based on how they feel in the body. They feel good. It feels good to be in gratitude. It feels good to laugh and to find play. It feels good to be in flow. Yeah? This concept of red light, green light was something that so as I was starting to help, as I stepped back into working with private clients in the Flow Protocols, the company I launched in 2021, I started to teach these emotional principles and working at the emotional level and helping. And then I was giving these exercises for some of my clients, simple things like vision boarding or journaling. And I started to, again, realize it was working really well for some of my clients. And then it was actually having the opposite effect for others. So some of my clients, they would vision board and then all of a sudden they would manifest and attract, insane opportunities or revenues. And then for others, it was having the opposite effect. And at that time, and then, so I went on this witch hunt where I was like, what is the fucking variable here? Is it their intelligence? Is it their background? Is it their race? What is it? It was none of that. And what I realized was it was the emotional state. If someone was vision boarding from an emotional red, in other words, if they were trying to make a vision board while they were feeling financially anxious or frustrated, it actually exacerbated the sense of frustration or financial anxiety. Versus if someone was completing a vision board exercise from a state of gratitude and play, that exercise compounded those states, those emotional greens. And at the time, the first season of Squid Games was out. And so obviously the red-green, there's a game in there called Red Light, Green Light. And I was gardening and I was like, oh, fuck, that's it, red light, green light. And it made so much sense in my brain. And then I've been sharing this ever since then with thousands of people across the world. And it just seems to click with people immediately. As soon as they understand emotions as red light, green lights, it's like, I got it. Instead of this convoluted, like, fix your mindset, blah, blah, blah. Feel better, red light, green light. So red light depletes us of energy, green light enhances energy. Reality is the mirror of us. So any action you take from a red light state, meaning any strategy that you implement in your business from a red light state, will perpetuate more red light states because reality mirrors you. So red light is not red light as in bad. It doesn't mean red as in evil, bad, how dare this exists. Emotional reds are really important actually. And I have a lot of gratitude for the depression I've experienced and the moments of frustration or confusion that I experienced. I no longer war with my emotions like I used to. And so I have a deep sense of reverence for these states because I now realize that it's impossible to desire freedom unless you have experienced a sense of feeling trapped. Yeah? It's impossible to reach for clarity unless you have felt confused. It's impossible to reach for hope unless you felt hopeless. Yeah. So the reds actually are the launch pads that create the discernment of your desire. And desire is we're talking about emotional skills here as something that trumps all strategy that you can do in your business. But I will say what trumps the emotion is desire. There has to be will. So you can have green light states and you can have all the strategies, but if you don't want to be in business, if you don't care about being a business owner, creating value exchange, if you have no desire to do this, none of the rest is going to matter. Like the willpower, the desire is the most important ingredient. I'm speaking to you assuming you already have that. If you've been watching this far already, you clearly have desire at some level to make your business or a value exchange, a very big, successful value exchange work for you. But that is the winning ingredient. And that is not possible without those reds. You see, you can't discern what the desire is without the contrasting experience. So this dual force, this yin and yang, this observable law of the universe, is very important because without the dark, there is no light, essentially. So it's not saying red as in bad or evil. It's saying red as in stop. Stop right now. Thank you very much. Like the Spice Girls. That was really bad singing. But red as in stop. Like, stop what you're doing. Don't take the fucking sales call while you're feeling insecure, my friend. You're not going to close anybody. This is not going to work. In fact, if you take a sales call while you feel insecure or financially anxious, like I have to close this person, otherwise if I don't close them, I cannot make my bill. Obviously, you're not going to close them. We're vibrational. They're going to pick up on that. And then when they don't close, what's going to happen? It's going to reinforce the original red. You're going to feel even worse. You're going to feel even more anxious. You're going to feel even more insecure. Like, I didn't close this. Oh my God, who am I? Am I even good at what I'm doing? Stop. Don't post your content while you're feeling unvalidated or unseen or unworthy or like a loser or confused. Those of you guys who have active content posting strategies, I mean, I think you guys can back me on this. Anytime you post, sometimes I get into this, by the way. Just because I teach this stuff, by the way, doesn't mean I'm immune to the reds, but I'm much faster at going through them. So something that would have wiped me out for months in the past, I usually can move through within half an hour nowadays. So it's not that you create a life, by the way, applying these principles where you're only going to experience greens. As I mentioned, that you wouldn't want that. The reds are really important, but we don't have to suffer in them in the way that some of us do, where it's like you're in your grief for years or your whole life, or you're in your anger for your whole life. And who who benefits from that, you know? Certainly not you. Definitely not you. And definitely no one else around you. That's for damn sure. So this is a conversation about how we reclaim emotional sovereignty, not so that we're always happy, not so that we never have a moment of confusion or anger or insecurity. That shit's always going to happen at different, as you grow, you're constantly growing, you know? I have insecurities now about charging $300K for private clients, which is the sum I want to eventually stretch to. That's a huge sum, but I'm like, who would pay me this? Da, da, da. And yet I was saying the same thing when I was trying to charge 5K for private client work. Who would pay me this, right? And so as I've grown, as I've stretched, I encountered this imposter, these fears at every level. It doesn't go away, but you get faster and better at moving and shifting through these things. So red light is we stop. We don't hire someone. Oh, well, let me finish the content thing, right? I'm moving around here. I'm in flow. So yeah, if you're posting, one of the stories that sometimes I get caught into is like, oh, I haven't posted in a minute. I should probably post something. It's been a while. And then I'll write something and post on social media because like it's coercion instead of like this, I need to share this. This is exciting for me to share. This is flow. This is passion. It's more the energy of coercion, pressure, like you should do this, you know, shame. It's got that vibe. Red, right? It doesn't work. Those of you guys that post content, you can back me on this, right? When you post content from emotional reds, that shit tanks like Titanic. It doesn't work. And then what happens is because it tanks and no one engages, because you were in a red and you needed that validation, now you're refreshing and an hour passes and no one's engaging and now you're like, and then you delete the post and then you feel embarrassed and then it reinforces the whole red, you see? Because any action taken from a red, any strategy integrated from an emotional red will lead to more, it reinforces the red. That's what it does. It's a mirror of us. So again, if you're, I keep touching this plant, by the way, if you're wondering what I'm doing here. There's like this big plant and I can't stop touching it. And I will stop touching it now. So yeah, if you're in emotional reds, don't hire someone. It's not the time to fire someone either. Don't hire, don't fire, don't make big investments. If you're feeling confused or pressured or unsure, that is not the fucking time to put your money down on a big investment. Shift the energy, go into the greens first, and then greens mean go. When you're in play, when you're in flow, when you're in gratitude, when you enjoy, that is the moment when you hire, when you take the sales call, when you post on social media, when you craft the offer, when you decide on your price point, when you write the sales page, when you set the ads up. Oh my God, please do not touch ads while you are in emotional reds. Facebook mirrors this so much. Facebook is the ultimate mirror. Any algorithm is the ultimate mirror, right? The algorithms will always feed you back to you your deepest fears and insecurities. So yeah, if you're in emotional reds, that is not the time to go inside of an ad account and launch campaigns or write copy or anything. Shift the energy first. So I wrote some notes here because there's a lot I want to get through. Yeah, so basically, this principle of red light, green light is this emotional skill. Leading yourself emotionally is the skill that trumps all strategy. If you have an entrepreneur who is in a state of financial anxiety or frustration or self-doubt or whatever, all of this stuff, and then they're launching an ad campaign, a funnel, a launch, or whatever, a challenge, an e-commerce website, who knows, a book, doesn't matter. From those emotional states, it's going to be very hard for them to get the traction that they're after. Because the reds will reinforce the reds. Reds do not equal greens. Not if you're waiting for the external reality to do that. Reds will lead to greens if you lead yourself there. On the flip side, and this entrepreneur that's trying to go from the reds, what's going to happen is then they're going to apply themselves strategically, and then those strategies aren't going to work. And now they're going to think that there's something wrong with them, that the universe has a vendetta against them, that it works for everybody else. And then they get exhausted because they're trying to throw strategy after strategy after strategy at the wall and nothing is working. And that reinforces the whole red, you see? Versus the entrepreneur who is feeling in flow, in play, in gratitude, and is, launching a strategy from those emotional states. The strategy, basically any strategy can work at that stage. And when I was in deep flow, and in the academy, prior to 2018, there was so much flow for me in that business. And, there was still a lot of flow and play between 2018 and 2020, but there was definitely a strong undercurrent of reds beginning to grow. But prior to that, it was a lot of, yes, I was working a lot. And when the depression started to show up, that turned into burnout and overwhelm. But I was in a lot of flow and a lot of play with that business. I was recording stupid videos. I was publishing things just for the sake of it. And if you look at the Academy and FATC, these were multi-million-dollar coaching offers. The logos were made in a Word document. I mean, FATC, what kind of a brand name is that? People were like, what is FATC? What does that even mean? Stands for Facebook ads that convert, by the way. There was 404 broken links everywhere. The funnel was just ghetto as hell. It was really a basic strategy. And it worked really well. Why? It wasn't the strategies. Any strategy I would have applied at that stage could have worked, because I was in such flow with it. Like I would have done that work for free. I would have taught what I was teaching for free because I freaking loved it. Like I had to show up. I had to share these things. I had to create the impact that I was creating. It was just a joy. It was total emotional greens for me. That's the difference. That's why that skill is always going to trump any strategy that you try to apply. And so if you're right now fumbling around trying to figure out what is the strategy that's going to help my business go to the next level? How do I go to 7 figures? How do I scale? Or how do I blah, 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 blah. And maybe you've even tried and applied a whole bunch of things. This is your checkpoint. Check in on yourself emotionally. How are you actually feeling? Are you prominently in the greens? Or are you prominently in the reds about this dynamic, this relationship, this situation in your business, this value exchange? Are you prominently frustrated, confused, overwhelmed? Or you prominently enjoy and flow and play with it? Because if it's the former, I promise you, it won't matter what strategies you roll out. It's not going to work. Reds lead to reds. Reality mirrors you. Actions taken from the reds lead to more reds. That's what happens. And the longer you let that go for, the trickier it gets to get yourself out of that, because as reds lead to reds, they reinforce a story and they create more frustration, and new insecurities spring up around, well, now there's really something wrong with me. Now it's nothing's working. Now it's the economy. And then you start to pile on all these beliefs and stories to reinforce the experience that you're having, and shifting out of those, right, will take a lot more work than had you just shifted out of that at the beginning, if that makes sense. So what are some common reds that show up in businesses? Let's explore this. And I'm really talking about my main experience is coaching businesses, info products, service-based businesses like agencies. But, even e-commerce, this would apply. So, and even local service-based businesses, I'm thinking about that. Common reds that show up: client chargebacks, client refunds, client cancellations. So a lot of people, they want to go to 7 figures. Give me a 7-figure value exchange, universe. I'm God, whatever, subconscious. I'm so ready for this. Pretty please with the cherry on top. And then they forget that it's actually very normal to have, most businesses will have a 1% chargeback or refund rate, 1 to 2%. Whether that's e-commerce or in coaching businesses, that is a standard refund, chargeback, whatever, customer complaint rate across pretty much every single freaking industry. So when you're a small operator and you're doing $10,000 a month, that might happen to you. Say if it's 1%, you might get one client doing that to you once per year, maybe once every 2 years. Easy. As you go to 7 figures, 1% of the, you're taking on way more clients at this stage. And so it's not necessarily that there's a higher percentage rate of that happening. It's just that there's a lot more people coming into your business. And so while you used to get that happening once a year, now suddenly it's maybe once every 2 months, every 3 months or something like this. Most of you watching this, most of us are empathetic. We actually care about people. We're not psychopaths. We're not here to swindle people. We're here to actually create an impact, and our work matters, and we want people to benefit. We want people to benefit from the value exchange genuinely. And so anytime there is a cancellation or a refund request or an unhappy customer, that is definitely going to rock the boat of confidence, right? It's going to stir up some insecurities. And so that is a common red that a lot of people, as they scale to 7 figures, or that are they lack the emotional skill to be able to handle a 7-figure value exchange, because they cannot handle people being unsatisfied or unhappy. Guess what? It's gonna fucking happen. No matter what you're selling, it's gonna happen. You're not gonna please everybody. No matter how good you are as a coach, or how amazing your service is, or how amazing your offer is, there's always gonna be 1 or 2 clients, or depends how many clients you have in your business, where no matter how much you throw at them, how many resources, like, they have their own journey. They have their own, protagonist epic thing that they need to go through, and they're not going to be happy, or it's not going to work for them. And if you internalize that as a reason why you suck and why you can't show up and do the shit that you're here to do, you're going to shrink yourself, you're going to shut down, and you're going to start playing small. This is what I see a lot of entrepreneurs doing. They say they want 7 figures, but they cannot handle a person saying, I disagree with this, or this did not work with me, or I want a refund. They can't handle that emotionally. And so they play small. They won't say it consciously, but that's what's happening. Trolls, haters, people that are just slamming you online, right? Again, as you start to, if you're doing 5, 10K, 50K a month, you've got a small little value exchange there. Pretty easy to shield yourself away from that stuff. As you start to aim for 7 figures, that means more visibility. The visibility is a very scary thing for a lot of people. We have a lot of stories around how safe it is to be visible to others. One of the things we used to say in 8 Loop, my ad agency, to new clients coming in was like, hey, just so you know, especially clients that had never run ads before, we would tell them, just so you know, we're about to run ads. Trolls are going to come. Trolls are going to happen. It's part of the ecosystem. Don't worry about it. And we had a whole process on how to deal with them. My take on trolls now is that actually it helps with engagement, and the way you respond to a troll can actually attract really loyal customers into your business. And so I see trolls as an opportunity, and because I don't emotionally react to trolls in a way like where I take it personally, I don't have many experiences of that. Even when I'm running ads for my Magic Source Codes book, which you would think would get a lot of trolls just because of the content of that book, right? But I don't emotionally react. Do I sometimes slip up? Do I sometimes get insecure? Do I sometimes have stories about? Yes, of course. But this happens to all of us. We'll never get rid of all the stories. We all have stories. That's okay. That's not the point. The point is that you get rid of every single story that limits your growth. No, that doesn't exist. That kind of reality does not exist. Is that you're able to recognize them consciously and shift them and choose new ones. It's a game of choosing new ones, and you get better and better and better at doing this work. But yeah, plagiarism, trolls, haters, as I talked about, plagiarism was a big one for me in the academy. That was when I started to really shrink myself. I see this happening. I've seen this happen with some clients of mine where they had their content online, like Instagram profiles just copied verbatim, posts, and then these pages are scamming people. And then these content creators then go, well, I'm not even going to post anything because I don't want people to get scammed. And so they constrict, and then they go small, right? So that is another big thing to watch out for is if you have experienced plagiarism in any way, that is an emotional red, right? That is a sense of betrayal or being used, I guess. That's red. That doesn't feel good. And if you don't shift that red and you continue to operate under that red in your business, you're going to get more reds. Let's see, what other reds show up in business? Lack of boundaries. So people messaging you, your staff, your clients messaging you at all hours of the day, and then you feel compelled to respond or to answer at all hours of the day. In other words, burning out. That was my story in my ad agency, early days of my ad agency. Within hours of giving birth to my son, having a C-section, I was right on the emails, in the hospital bed, trying to respond to clients. And I was fucking tapped out. And, if you're burnt out, if you're overwhelmed, why would your subconscious let you go to 7 figures or let you grow even bigger? Even though energetically, by the way, this is a little thing for you to know, energetically, I say it takes less energy to make $1 million than 10,000. I've made millions, and I've made, and I was fluttering at 5K, 3K months for many years in my business, and 100% it is energetically way easier to make $1 million than it is to make 10K or 5K a month. However, most people don't believe that. That's not the story they're telling themselves. And so subconsciously, the story they're telling themselves is, if I'm burning out at 5, 10, 20K months, how could I possibly do 100K months? And because of this story, it prevents you from actually going to those figures, right? Clients struggling, we talked about that. That's a really big one. And then receiving more without the urge of doing more. I guess that kind of goes back to that, what we were just talking about, energetically, the same amount of energy to make $1 million, less energy, I'd say, to make $1 million than 10,000. A lot of the times we've been programmed. It's not even a lot of the times. Basically, most of us in this society have been programmed with this story that money is earned through hard work and sacrifice. And our societies measure success by gross domestic productivity. In other words, productivity, be productive. And so this creates all kinds of funky, emotional things around procrastination, right? The moment we procrastinate something, we start telling ourselves we're lazy. Why? Because there's a societal story around you must be productive at all times in order to be worthy to be a part of this society. And also, there's all kinds of funky stories around hard work equals money, time, effort, sacrifice equals money. And so if you're wanting, most of us start businesses because we want freedom, right? Time freedom, financial freedom, creative freedom, spiritual freedom. Freedom. It's the big word. That is pretty much what every single one of us is seeking. Sure, we might have different ulterior goals. Some of you guys might want to donate into charities, but that is a type of freedom, right? Financial freedom to shift funds into causes that mean something for you, to support loved ones, whatever. Freedom. We go into business because we want freedom, but yet take one look around and you will see most business owners have the opposite of that. They feel trapped by their business. They feel stuck. And then if you're trying to get some kind of work-life balance, maybe spend more time with your kids, only work for 4 days a week or whatever, and you have a story that hard work equals money, and you're, say, maybe at 30K months and you want to go to a 7-figure value exchange, can you see how there's a duplicity in your beliefs that is going to conflict each other? And it doesn't matter if you affirm in the mirror, this is what I was saying. I was doing affirmations, I was meditating, I was journaling in 2018. None of that shit fucking did nothing. None of it did nothing. If you can affirm yourself in the mirror all day, I get to receive more money without more effort. But if your subconscious doesn't believe that, and you'll know based on how that feels to tell yourself that, I get to receive more. There's probably a voice at the back of your head going, yeah, right? Or based on how you receive, you'll know how you receive, right? If someone pays you 5K or 10K, do you receive it with like, yeah, fuck yeah? Or is there almost like a sense of, shit, am I good enough for this? Do I need to do more, right? Like that. Check that energy with how you receive money. That's going to be a big telltale sign for you on what you really believe, what story you really believe in. That's why we work at the emotional level, because it's impossible to know what your beliefs are subconsciously. And the way that we identify it is through the emotions, which are a result of prominent thoughts that you're practicing or holding. So if you look at how you're receiving larger sums in your business, someone pays you some money, are you going into imposter syndrome? Do you go into a sense of like, I have to do more now, or I have to give more value, or maybe I have to do more hours for this client because this was a big sum? That's telling you that somewhere there's a belief or a story that money equals hard work, equals sacrifice or effort on your part. So with that story in play, it's gonna be tricky to go to a 7-figure value exchange, because that's technically based on your equation, your subconscious's equation. That would mean 100 times the workload, or whatever, 1,000 times the workload of where you're at now, you see. So we check so we have a lot of duplicity in our beliefs, basically, that can be identified through our emotional reactions and how we're showing up in our business and how we're reacting to certain things occurring in our business. But the key is, and the main point of the conversation I want to have today, is that once you begin to prioritize this emotional piece and you start to intentionally lead yourself in the greens, and then you put a strategy on top of that, that's the magic touch. But that skill emotional regulation will trump any marketing, any sales, any funnel, any pricing offer, whatever, value, strategy, any fucking day in and day out. I'm swearing because I'm passionate. That's it's also my screening. I know that I like to sometimes drop the F word, so I do it front in these free groups because I know, or free trainings, because I know that if it upsets you now, you definitely should not buy from me. It's my screening process. So we prioritize the emotional skills first, and then any and all strategies can basically work. So there's still merit for strategy. Obviously, there's an element where it's one thing to just be at home and manifest and do rituals and, ooh, I feel good, I'm in the greens and I have positive thoughts. But if we're not taking actions, if we're not moving energy through our body in this physical reality, and those actions are the strategies we roll out in our business, then we're really half baking the goals. Like, we're half baking the results, right? Because another observable law of our reality is there's visible and non-visible component to this reality. There's electromagnetic waves that allows you to hear me right now and forms, sound waves that create all mass. And then there's mass. There's the physical part. There's the feminine and the masculine. And there's the intention and thoughts, and there's the behaviors and actions. And when we marry those together, that's when real magic starts to happen. So yes, there's still merit for the strategy, which in itself is sort of the masculine, is the actions, the behaviors. But what I'm saying is, without this foundational piece in place, the strategy will lead you astray. It will create more of those reds. So that is why we lead with the emotional piece first, and then the strategy piece, it takes the pressure off. Instead of having to exert XYZ amount of effort to get, 2 people buying from you, you exert a fraction of that energy and you get tenfold the amount of people buying from you. That's the difference. So this is what I do with my private clients when I work with clients. One of my clients, Manuel, came to me. He was really plateaued in his revenues. Had done 100K months in the past, but then started to go downhill, like 60K months. And really I would say the first 4 months of working together was really nailing this piece, this emotional piece, because there was a lot of anxiety, frustration. He tried a lot of strategies at that time. No amount of ad spend. Ads were just going up. The cost per lead was just going, nothing was working, basically. He would fix one thing and then it was another thing. Then it was another bottle. Then he would fix that. Then another bottle. It couldn't catch a fucking break. That's exactly how I experienced it as well in 2018. So the first 4 months of us working together was really this emotional piece, him leading the way with his emotional greens. A lot of that was confidence. There was the issue of some, client chargebacks. He's really high integrity guy, really good at what he does, but he was taking that stuff super personally, and that was really affecting him. So dealing with that, getting him into the emotional greens, and then we started to look at some strategies, which, by the way, he had tried before. And he even said to me, oh, this isn't going to work. I was like, just watch. We're doing it with different energy. Just watch now. And one of those was a low ticket funnel, selling a low ticket offer, and then with an order bump and an upsell. He's like, nah, this is not going to work. Anyways, he launched that 3 weeks ago. It's fucking bopping off. He sent me a message this morning. He's like, Kat, this LTO is it's grooving. And then in the last, we're 2 weeks into July, he's made $60,000, what he would normally make in 1 month. What he had plateaued off. So he's done that in 2 weeks, basically. That is the power of leading with emotions, of regulating yourself and recognizing that your business is a mirror of you. Your bank account is a mirror of you. Your clients are a mirror of you. Your reality is a mirror of you. This can be super daunting, I get it, because it requires us to go like, fuck, where I'm at right now. I created that. You always get what you want, by the way. You always get what you want. The universe, God, subconscious is always saying yes to you. There's nothing that's happening in your life right now that you did not ask for. And I know that can feel really confronting to hear. But so too, it is very empowering, because it means that you have the sovereignty to change all circumstances of your life. And you are equipped with the compass to do this. That's your emotions. That's what's communicating to you. Hey, red emotions, they drain us of energy, and they feel bad because they're literally you trying to signal to yourself, pay attention, please. There's a prominent story here, a prominent belief, a prominent thought or perspective that you're holding that I don't fucking agree with. that is simply not aligned to what you're trying to create for yourself. That's why it feels like an alarm when you feel depression and anxiety and fear and confusion, because that's exactly what it is. It is there to hijack you, for you to pay attention to. Hey, focus. There's something here you need to pay attention to and shift. The problem is none of us are taught this stuff in school. And so we've normalized living with states of emotional reds over prolonged periods of time. Sometimes years, sometimes lifetimes. We've normalized living with anger. We've normalized living with depression. We've normalized living with anxiety for long, long periods, and it's not supposed to be like that. That is absolutely going to take your nervous system out. And then what you will find is the physical illness, right? It's the mental illness, physical illness, bank account drops, relationships deteriorate, right? Because it's like the alarm. It's like, okay, you're not paying attention now. What about if we shut the body down? Now are you going to fucking listen? Oh, she's still not listening. Okay, let's shut the money off now. Now are you going to listen? No? Okay. Now let's make chaos happen everywhere. Now are you listening? But it's not a punishment. It's not like, listen to this because if you don't listen to this, it's not like you're being punished. It's not that. It's just, you're always attracting exactly what you want. And so when it feels red emotionally, what you're telling yourself is you are holding a perspective or a story right now that is not what you consciously or what your creative core actually desires or aspires to for yourself. And it needs attention. That's why it feels like an alarm. It's like, pay attention, right? So this is what I teach my clients. And this is very fulfilling, because now I get to teach this thing that was so elusive to me for so long, for so many years, that has formed a big part of my own experience. And then also, when we have this emotional piece in place, I also have a big background in strategy. I've been in the business world for over 13 years. Very, I love ads and funnels and all these things, direct response. So then adding the strategy on top of that gets to be a lot of fun, right? Okay, so those were some of the key reds. What else do I want to talk about? Do I have any questions, by the way? I've just been firing away. Okay, so this is the invitation. If you're sitting here right now and it's resonating and you're like, fuck, this is me. This is me. I have plateaued. I am trying to fix one thing after the next, and I fix one thing and then another fucking faucet explodes over here and I can't catch a fucking break, and I am throwing spaghetti at the wall, and I am exhausting myself, and I have tried every freaking option and I've gone down every aisle of this labyrinth, but there is no doubt, Kat, that there is a big undercurrent of emotional reds. And it might be one red, it might be multiple. Likely it's multiple. Likely if you've been operating in reds, what's showing up now is you've probably got insecurity, maybe anxiety, fear, financial anxiety, insecurity, and then obviously frustration. If you've been at it for a really long time, there may also be the really deep reds of depression happening here, which is a big alarm signal, by the way. Pay attention, pay attention. So for those of you watching this right now and it's making sense to you, you're like, okay, yeah, this is the one strategy I haven't looked at. And you want to learn more about how to actually lead with your greens, this is what I'm all about. This is what I've been teaching people. I've been teaching people through my workshops that I run, the private clients, and now I have a container called Protocol 8, which I am very excited about. It is a hybrid of the flow protocols, which was really the emotional piece. And then, so Protocol 8, right? Flow protocol. And then 8, the agency, the strategic side. It is the marriage between the emotional skills and the strategic skills. It is a look at how to lead yourself from the greens, to remove conditions, flip the stories, how to move through this process quicker and quicker and quicker, so that, hey, you know what? It's not that problems never show up. Is that when they show up, you have the resilience and the courage and the gusto to solve for them. Back in the day when I got started, a client canceling their contract in my agency would have knocked me out of my confidence for almost a month. Like, I would have been in self-doubt and why me, and can I even do this? Nowadays, if that happens to me, I move through that within. In fact, I had a client try to fire me 2 weeks ago, and I actually said no. I said no, and our relationship is stronger for it. She's thriving on the back. It's fucking awesome. I never would have dared to say something like that 10 years ago. And the only reason I had that level of confidence to say I reject your cancellation was because of this emotional work that I'm doing. And thank fuck for it, because now it's like we're better than ever. She's thriving. She's found her flow right on the back of that. It like unlocked so many things for her. So that is the combination. It's the emotional skills and then looking at the strategic side of things. Like, okay, what would be a strategy that is aligned with the energy and the values that you have in your life right now? A lot of the strategies, as I said, any and all strategies can work or fail. Many of you guys are following strategies because you're seeing an ad online that said, this is the funnel to get clients into your agency. And you're trying to mimic and copy and paste a funnel that will work for a lot of people, but not for you, because it requires you to, I don't know, get on sales calls, and you don't have the time or capacity or mental fucking bandwidth to do that. That's never going to work for you then. Doesn't matter if it's working for thousands of other people. You have to know what strategies are like that. Fuck yes, these energize me, these align with me. For a minute, 2 years ago, I tried to mimic another successful coach online. She was doing live monthly launches and workshops. And I was like, oh, well, she's succeeding doing this. Let me do it too. And oh my God, I tapped out. I was exhausted by my business. And then I hit this thing where I didn't even want a bar of it. I just shut it all down. I was like, no, everything's closing down, guys. I was so exhausted. So when we learn when we lead ourselves emotionally first, and then from those greens, we can discern which strategies are aligned to us. And then when we layer those on top, that's when we create businesses that, have that freedom that you're aspiring to. Not just freedom, but like fun and play and joy, because that's what it should feel like, by the way. It shouldn't feel like you're a prisoner to your business. It shouldn't feel like you're giving every fucking ounce of energy, of gasoline drop to your business. And here you are, this like anemic skeleton behind the scenes, barely getting anything back. But hey, you know what? At least you're an entrepreneur. You don't have a 9-to-5. It shouldn't be like that. You should be thriving. You should love your business. It should feel great. It should feel easy. Is it going to be without problems or challenges? No, that does not exist. Duality exists. That is a known law of this universe. Problems and challenges will always show up. However, when you lead with your greens, you have the resilience, you have the courage, you have the stamina, and you attract solutions and opportunities. It's a very different experience. But yeah, that's my mission, is to like rewrite this whole sacrifice narrative that so many people have normalized in the business space, that I normalized for so many years, that it should be this hard. And then what? Like when you're 60, then what? You sell your business and you get to finally be happy? Fuck that shit. It's not going to work like that either. You get to be in play with it now. It gets to feel like fun now. It gets to feel like flow now. But your business, your clients, your audience, the economy, the government, they're not going to be the ones to do it for you. To say, hey, you know what, Kat? You look like you need some time off today. How about you just step away and, take a break? As if your clients are not going to be the one to say, hey, Kat, you should charge me $100,000 more. That would feel way more aligned to me. If you do get a client like that, keep him. That's a great fucking client. It's not going to happen. I've never had that. I've had clients say to me, thank God you didn't charge less. But I've never heard a client in all my 13 years say to me, Kat, you should charge me an extra $10K for the same exact service. Not gonna happen. You lead the way. There is no other way. No one else is gonna do it. And most of you are waiting for your external reality to somehow give you a green light, to make a shift, to go blah blah. And that's why you're waiting a long fucking time, because reality mirrors you. So the longer you wait, the longer you wait. That's what happens. So for those of you guys who are ready to foster these skills, to make really big moves, you have the desire, you have the will. Again, that's the most important ingredient, even beyond the emotional skills, is you actually want it. If you don't want it, or you're following someone else's desire, it's not really going to work, no matter what we do together. But I'm assuming you've stuck this long, you have the will, you have the desire. You understand you've been operating in emotional reds, and you're ready to start owning and to claiming a bigger value exchange. We're talking, we're talking big sums here. If you want to go to like 50, 100K months, I'm your girl. I know exactly how to get you there without more effort, without more energy on your part, without more hustle, without more sacrifice. And the way that I help my clients do that is actually we work on this EQ piece first. For some of you guys, that could take a couple months if you're in really deep reds. So I was depressed as fuck. Took me a couple months to get out of that. That's normal. If you're just bored or you're just confused, usually you can shift out of those into your greens very quickly within a matter of weeks. And then we layer on the strategy. And then we look at how do we actually position what offers do we create? How do we position this? How do we how do we price this? How do we market this? Do we automate this because you don't have the energy to do live launches or whatever, or you don't want to do content? Should we run ads? That's when we look at the strategy. And I can bring insights from both sides of these worlds. I've done a lot of this emotional work, and then I've done a lot of the strategic work. And I started to really get disconnected from the academy in 2018 because I started to realize it was missing this other piece that was actually foundational to the strategy. And I found such a dissonance in that business at the time because of that. And then I went off and I went on the polar opposite side. I went off and explored mindset and emotional skills and did the Coven for a year, which was magic, which was so much fun. And now it's that balance point where it's a coming together of going, it's not just about the emotional skills. This is foundational. This trumps the strategy. But when we marry this with the strategy, watch out, world. Watch out, world. So that appeals to you. and it is singing out to you, head over to cathowell.com and then /discover8. And you can book a 15-minute discovery call with me, yours truly. I'm only doing this for the next week because I'm going to be automating this whole thing. This is just for this group. And we can have a chat and see if Protocol 8 is right for you. It is currently priced at $2,222, and that price is going to go up. And that's all I got to say about that. Get yourself on this call. So I'll post the link below, but it is cathowell.com/discover8. I have opened up some 15-minute slots over the next week. Again, this is just open to you guys. Get on a call with me. See if it's a good fit. This is going to work for anyone who's... I've worked with all kinds of different industries, but I would say my genius zone is really info products, coaches, mentors, therapists, service providers, freelancers. I was telling you about Joel. He had a drop shipping ecom business, scaled it to $1 million within 30 days. So I've helped people in e-commerce. I do know e-commerce, but I would say my zone of genius is if you're a coach, mentor, content creators as well, or a service provider like agency or freelancer. Then I have a lot of insights, a lot of juice. Most of my clients are in that space. So you get a lot of intel from what I'm doing, working on those funnels and on those clients. And, you have to have the will, you have to have the desire. The other thing is that you're not brand new. So this isn't for you if you're in a 9-to-5 right now and you're thinking about starting a business. You're better off finding a mentor for yourself that is at that level. So working with people who are brand new. I tend to work best with individuals who have, it's okay if you want to pivot into a new industry. So a lot of the people I work with, they're agency owners and they want to go into coaching. I work really well with people like that. That's okay, but you have to have previous existing business experience. So ideally a couple years of trying to run your business behind you, whatever that is. That's who I work best with. If you're brand new and you're currently in a 9-to-5 and you haven't started yet, I'm not your mentor. Because the conversations I have are not going to be at that level of addressing fears of leaving a 9-to-5 and trusting yourself in the first few years. Find yourself a mentor who's speaking that. The other thing that I ask is that you don't book this call from emotional reds. So if you're feeling FOMO, fear of missing out, if you're feeling pressured, or if you're like confused, or like just don't even bother because it's going to waste my time, it's going to waste your time, basically everything we were talking about today. If it's a red, stop, go shift the energy, go do something that feels green for you. Maybe that's gardening, meditating, masturbating, hanging out with friends. I don't know. Shift the energy. See if you can shift the energy. If you can, then book a call. If you cannot, then please respect that for yourself and for me. It's not going to work, okay? So that is the invitation, is to join me inside of Protocol 8, where we lead ourselves emotionally. This is world-changing shit, guys, because this is going to impact not just you, but everyone in your life. And here's the coolest news. All relationships are connected. Your business is a relationship. Your money is a relationship. And when you change resistance across one relationship, it impacts all others, yeah? Can you see how if you're unhappy in your marriage, that affects your finances, that affects your business? Can you see how if you're unhappy in your body, that affects your marriage, that affects your business? And so when we address and we nurture and we enhance emotional greens across one relationship, we actually enhance all relationships, all dynamics of our lives. So everybody in your life will benefit from this work as you teach yourself this emotional regulation piece, everybody in your life, your kids, your friends, your partners, your clients are going to win more. Your customers are going to get better results. It is a ripple effect that is felt through beyond just your bottom line, beyond just how much time you're spending on your business. It's a really I think this is the sexiest and most important skill that anyone can develop in 2025 ongoing. Because, we have so much technology now. We're so advanced technologically, but mental health wise, we just medicate people. Like we're nowhere closer to help. And apparently people are more depressed than they've ever been, more lonely than they've ever been. Like it's almost like we're going backwards. So as AI takes steps in and as all these conveniences are built in, it's like, well, what is the real work that we're here to do? The real work, I believe, our purpose here on this planet is to expand emotional greens unconditional of external circumstances, to find hope in the face of despair, to feel confident even when we're being rejected, to touch love even when it is being withheld from us. That is the skill of the alchemist. The people who master this skill, they fucking own this world, my friends. That's the way it goes. And it positively impacts everybody. So head to cathowell.com/discover8. That's EIGHT, discover8. DISCOVEREIGHT. I love how I had to read that. Did you? Because I don't know. Okay. Anyways, I'm very smart at other things, but like math and trying to spelling bee shit from my brain, not so much. But it's okay. I have other skills. Other skills like EQ skills, marketing strategy skills. That's all I need. So head over to that link, book a free 15-minute discovery call with me. There's no pressure. Obviously, I would never pressure you to buy from me because that's a red. Like, in fact, I'm going to tell you not to buy from me if you're in red. But yeah, let's just chat. Let's see if it's a good fit for Protocol 8. See if I can help you. And this may be the tribe that you've been waiting for. This could be the thing that really turns everything in your business. And I trust this offer so much. I trust myself so much. I've seen the benefits in my clients' lives, in my own lives, the impact that it has. I know. I know. Once you start to do this work, you'll never go back. Let's just say that. You'll never go back. You might forget. You might slip up sometimes. It happens to all of us. It happens to me. Even I do this work, and even me, sometimes I have fears. Even me, sometimes I have imposter syndrome. But that should be good news, because then it's like, you don't need to be perfect. Like, that's not the point. To thrive and have a happy life and a business that really, that fits like a glove, There's no perfection needed anywhere. You get to have a dual human experience. And this is a conversation about not having that dual experience, but rather embracing that and then learning how to navigate through that. It's like the movie Dune, This is what I was using in my workshop, Spellcrafter. I was talking about how in the movie Dune, you have these indigenous people on this planet. So these giant worms that live in the desert, and the colonizers or whatever at war with the worms. And then you have this indigenous tribe that have learned the ways of the worms. And because they're not fighting the worms, they're able to channel the worms' energies to their benefits, like to traverse the desert or whatever. This is the same thing. It's like instead of going to war with the Reds, we're going to understand the communication that we're sending to ourselves and then learn to channel that energy to our advantage, because there's a lot of energy behind depression. There's a lot of energy behind anxiety, trust me. It depletes your body of energy, but there's a lot of creative energy behind that. And if you learn how to channel that to your advantage, you can, it's next level. Anyways, So, cathowell.com/discover8. Book a 15-minute discovery call. Let's chat. See if Protocol 8 is right for you. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I know this was an impromptu live, so I can see 3 people are with me live right now. Hello, hello. But yeah, let me know if you're watching the replay, what resonated. Let me know what insight really stuck out for you. Even if you're not booking this call with me, what insight stuck out for you? What are you taking away from today's call? Say hello. Let me know if you're watching the replay. Yeah, just say hi. So I feel not so alone. Not that I feel alone, but it's nice, you know? Anyways, I am burning up here, so I'm going to let you guys go. I appreciate your time. Thank you for making this. I think this was like an hour and a half, pretty long training. But it was an important conversation. I realized there was no training like this in this group before, so that's why I just felt the energy. And here we go. Let's see where it goes. Thank you, thank you. How do I turn this off? There we go. See you guys. Bye.